It's been 84 years.
Hello, patrons. Listen, I can explain. I really can't. I just haven't done one of these in a while. I got, sidetracked by the Dream Drop project and Survivor editing. As you can see, if you have paid attention to your poor Patreon notifications over the past few weeks, I have finally edited the rest of Season 1. We're ramping up production for Season 2 starting this week. So, yeah, sorry. I honestly, when I get into a project, I'm always just I have Premiere open all the time, and I'm like, well, if I do a Rambles, then I gotta close Premiere and then open it back up later, and it takes so long for everything to dust itself off when you're doing a big project. So it's very stupid and it's very irresponsible, and I apologize, and I'll try to be better about this, but I can't even make any promises. So, but we're here. By my calculations, I have to get to answer 12 questions in this episode. So it's a bit of a giga ramble, so to speak, but I'm looking forward to it. I've missed this, so let's see what the good people have to say in the community, shall we? Our first question comes from a G-Meister, who says, on a plate of spaghetti, identify yourself. The noodles, the sauce, the meatballs. So, this is what I've been missing for the past month and a half, this. Well, G, this actually comes from February, this question. Of all those three things, I most prefer a good meatball. I love meatballs. Anytime meatballs are an option as an appetizer, I always go for the meatballs. Anytime that's something you can add to your pasta, I'm always going to pick meatballs as the additional thing there at a restaurant. But that's just what I like the most. I don't know if I really identify the most with meatballs. Probably the noodles. I feel like I'm maybe not so much nowadays, but I'm a bit of a lankster. I'm a lanky guy. At least I was at a point. I'm putting on the content bod, both because I make the content and I am content, and I think that has expressed itself in a bit of a belly, but that's all right. The arms are still pretty noodly, so I feel that. I think I'm probably the noodles. The sauce, I get lost in the sauce at times, but I don't know if I really spiritually connect to the sauce that much. The sauce can make or break all of that, though, so it's probably the most important of those three things, because you don't just want plain noodles and meatballs, so you want to have a good sauce. I think that's probably the unsung hero of the trio there. I hope that's satisfactory, G. Thank you for asking. Question 2 comes from Carcat the Dalek, who says, you mentioned recently, and by recently, this question's from April 11th, so maybe not as recently, but you mentioned recently that you'll probably watch the KH4 trailers as they come out. Keeping in mind Square's tendency to put fairly major spoilers in their trailers, would you recommend that fans stop watching the trailers after a certain point? And if so, what point do you think that would be, going off of 3's pre-release cycle, for example? Great question, Carcat. Thank you so much for asking. Yeah, it's tricky. I did that video about, did KH3 ruin itself? I want to say that was 2 years ago at this point. And I think with KH, especially with KH3, is I don't know if I would say that they put spoilers in the trailers, but it's more so that they put things that we didn't need to see in the trailer. The crux of my argument for that video was why are you showing Larxene or Marluxia or, Xion and Terra Aquaven? The people that you might be attracting to play KH3 who haven't played the past few games aren't going to care about those characters anyway, so why are you showing them? Why are you kind of ruining those moments for the diehards who are always going to play KH3, and you didn't need to sell this to them in that way? No one's gonna see Ienzo in a KH3 trailer who hasn't played Birth by Sleep or Calm or Days or any of those and be like, oh, Ienzo, I gotta check this out now. You know what I mean? It was just a weird choice to show characters that aren't gonna mean anything to people who are getting back into the series with 3, and you're just going to take the wind out of the sails for the people who were always going to buy this game anyway. Now, the FF7 remake, on the other hand, they did put some bonkers shit in there, so hopefully we don't get something to that caliber in a KH4 trailer. Yeah, so, I'm in a position where I think I kind of have to watch all of it just by nature of, my job and what I do on YouTube. In terms of what I would recommend fans do, I would recommend, I would say do whatever you want, just, manage your expectations, right? I'm not going to say, oh, guys, you're shooting yourself in the foot if you watch all the trailers, because I'm not going to pretend that, like, it's foolish to watch the trailers, because it's not. Like, that's the point of them, is to, you know, watch them and get excited and you know, get some new information on what's going to be in the game. But you just also have to manage your expectations, and, you know, when you're playing the game, don't like let yourself feel disappointed when things don't hit as hard or surprise you as meaningfully, because you saw certain scenes or certain characters or certain, you know, worlds show up in a trailer a few months prior. So, like, you know, it's tough to say, like, when would I personally recommend stop watching if I didn't have a stake in this as, like, you know, an occupation. Probably within the last month, 2 months of the release date, and it's tough when you don't know when the game's coming out, right? Like, we could get 2 more major trailers before KH4 comes out. Like, who knows? Like, KH3 had so much, so it's hard to say. Like, I would have to assume that we're going to get at least another 1.5 years of, like, pre-release materials for KH4. So, like, let's say if KH4 is going to come out at the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, like, God, the fact that that's, like, totally realistic, I would say, like, yeah, stop watching, like, 2 months before the projected release date. That would be my... If I were still a fan not covering the games, that's probably what I would do, and that's kind of what I did for KH3. Like, the final battle trailer in KH3 was just, like, atrocious in terms of all the stuff that it showed. I got to experience 3, not knowing really that much at all about Scala, about the final world, about anything that happens in the Keyblade Graveyard. I didn't know about the big Sora Scream until I played the game. So, like, it all hit harder for me. I feel like I enjoyed the game more because of that, because I didn't go into it expecting these moments to happen, and, like, even subconsciously bracing myself for them. Like, in a perfect world, I would love to play a KH game where I don't know any of the Disney worlds before I put that sucker in my console and I fly to it on my gummy ship or dive to it or whatever the fuck we do in 4. But that's just not realistic. Like, that's something that they've done since the first game. Like, you knew every Disney world either through trailers or through the old defunct Squaresoft website where you could, like, literally see the world icons. I think it was, like, the UK version of the website, actually. I saw a video that covered it once, so it was pretty cool. Like, I would have loved to experience KH3 not knowing about Monsters, Inc. or Toy Box, or even, like, Arendelle, just to, like, have the anticipation of not knowing, like, what are the 7 worlds that they picked to show up in this game. And just being on the internet, not even as a content creator, just as somebody who engages in the fan space of KH, like, you're gonna know. Like, no one's gonna spoiler tag trailers when you're, you know, this deep into the fandom. Yeah, those are my thoughts on that. Just hype responsibly, you know, watch trailers responsibly, manage expectations responsibly. That's all I could really say. It's not the end of the world if you don't, but, like, just don't be engaging in fucking negative Nancy discourse when, you know, you see a character in a trailer and then you're, like, not that hyped when they show up in the game, because, like, yeah, like, why would you be? You already saw them in the fucking scene. Like, I would have shit a brick if I saw Lark's scene in Arendelle for the first time, but, like, I knew she was gonna be there, so I was like, oh, yeah, I mean, she was supposed to show up at some point, so here she is. Like, it's just not as fun. So, that's all I've got. Thank you for the question, Carcat. I just noticed you can see the little Patrick Star pill-shaped thing in my bed there. Let me go get that. Regular GF got this for me, because I don't have enough schmutz and stuffed animals. He's just a cute little guy, you know. We're both Patricks, we're simpatico in that way. We're both kind of stupid. Really, she just gets me stuffed animals so that she has, like, something to, like, snuggle when she's sleeping here. But you'd think she could snuggle me, but apparently I move around too much. I kick. What a guy. Anyway, this question comes from T-Mac, who says, everybody knows about the Wii Shopping Channel, and everybody loves to shop on it every Wednesday. So what you'll do is you'll rank all the games in Nirvana the Band the show's Wii Shopping Channel song by how much you like them or how much you would want to play them for the ones you haven't already played. Great question, T-Mac. Let's do that. So thankfully, I have already conveniently made this list on Backlog. This is a list to help get my band a gig at the Rivoli. By the way, if you don't use Backlog, definitely check that out if you're into, like, keeping track of the games you've played and games that you want to play and rating and reviewing games. It's really cool and nifty, and I love shit like that, so big shout out to Backlogged. So yeah, I've only played a handful of these games. Of the ones that I've played probably very briefly on, like, a virtual console type thing, whether it was on the Wii or a port somewhere else or, like, a shitty plug and play thing. Of everything here, I think Super Mario RPG is probably my favorite and best game here, which I don't typically, you know, have those circles of the Venn diagram cross, but I don't think anything here really matches the quality of that game. Even ones that I haven't played, I would just think from, you know, public consciousness and the zeitgeist. Like, I don't think anything here really holds a candle to it. There's definitely games that are more important to gaming culture and, you know, just the history of gaming, like Sonic 1, obviously. I think there's an argument to be made for the Ninja Gaiden games, definitely. Maybe even Harvest Moon, but I don't think any of them are going to match that quality of Mario RPG there, which is not even my favorite Mario RPG game, but it's, you know, an overall pretty solid experience. Sonic 1, I'd have to have that below. I've played it. I don't love it. It's not as good as Sonic 2, but I never beat that game. Everyone always says, you know, old Sonic was better, and I go back and play the old ones, and I'm like, I don't like these either. So, but I did it. I played it. I felt like I had to do my due diligence, do my gaming homework. Donkey Kong 3, I'd probably rather play Donkey Kong 1. Not that I'd love to play any of the old Donkey Kong games. This is the one where you play as Stanley the Bugman. Don't really care that much about that. I'd probably even put it below Sonic. Adventures of Lolo 1 and 2 seem cute. Lolo seems like a fun little guy. I may have even played this. If it's on NSO, I probably have for a second or two, just because I recognized it from the Wii Shop Wednesday song. They're like puzzle games, I think. I'm not really into that too much. They're like top-down, like maze puzzle games, I think. Something like that. It's probably fine, but not exactly my cup of tea. King's Knight looks like a very Zelda-adjacent, maybe even a precursor to a Zelda game, depending on the year here. 86, so I think it's the same year, probably a couple months earlier if I had to guess. Apparently Squaresoft, I was going to say Square Enix, but that can't be right. I guess they grandfather in all the older companies when they rebrand or assimilate. But judging from the box art and reviews, probably not that good. Probably would rather play the OG Zelda, and even that, I'd really rather not play at all. So, low. Dig Dug, I have a soft spot for Dig Dug. Definitely not as, like, iconic or important as, like, a Pac-Man, but there's just something really satisfying about sticking your big old long air pump into enemies and blowing them up into smithereens. Yeah, I guess that's how we'll say that sentence. I like Dig Dug. I'm gonna put that second from the top. Chu Man Fu seems oddly problematic. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Chu Man Fu has gone too far. His evil curse deprives you and everyone else of your beloved egg rolls and fried rice. Maybe that's fine. I don't know. Something about this feels not right to me. I guess it's like a puzzly maze game. It's got a 3.5 out of 44 plays. Maybe even fewer rankings total, I'm not sure. So, probably not that great. Probably can go without that. Harvest Moon I probably would really like. I've never played any of them, but, you know, I love Animal Crossing. I love Stardew Valley. I'm sure the OG Harvest Moon is something that I could go without, but maybe a newer Harvest Moon with some quality of life and, you know, more modern features. I'm sure I would not hate that. Pokemon Puzzle League I've never played. Closest thing I can think of to that is probably, like, Troze or, like, the pinball game. Just like kind of smaller Pokemon offshoots. You know, a 2000-era puzzle game themed around Pokemon, probably fine, but not something I'd spend a ton of time on, so probably middle of the pack. Toe Jam and Earl and Panic on Funkotron. Not only is it the funnest part of the Wii Shop song to sing, but it looks really fun. I don't know anything about it, really. Like, I've always heard of Toe Jam and Earl as, like, kind of old-school, like, platformer mascots. It's only got a 3.1 though, but I'd check it out. You can't go wrong with a good old adventure platforming game, so it's high up there. Castlevania I've definitely played a tiny bit. I know it's really important. If I didn't mention that earlier on in terms of games that are important, that's probably the most important game on this list. Maybe even more than Sonic 1. They're both up there for sure. Without save states, I'd probably not want to engage with this too deeply, but with save states, with modern, you know, checkpoint sensibilities, I'd be willing to sink some time into a Castlevania, but I'd probably put that, like, high middle. Fatal Fury, not a big traditional fighting game guy. All I really know of Fatal Fury is that it's by SNK, and it was on the Neo Geo? Yeah, here we go. Terry's in it. Oh, it's only got 2.6, so maybe a newer Fatal Fury would be one I'd be more keen on, but can't imagine I would have that much fun with that one. I'm just not big on like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter type stuff. Tekken, all of that is all kind of the same to me, and I just don't really care about it. Ninja Jajamaru-kun, they pronounce it Kon in the song, so it's got 2.2. It looks like a generic sort of platformy game. Looks like people don't really like it that much. I'll put it low. Doesn't really grab me. ActRaiser. What the fuck is this? For some reason, I think it's a racing game. No, that's just because the word razor sounds like racer. But it's got like fucking lightning striking the pyramids. Like, what even is this? It's a city building simulation game. So like a Sim City, I suppose. I never played that and never really was into that genre too much. So I'd be willing to try something like this, but probably not ActRaiser from 1990, so on the lower end. Sorry I'm not doing like a real tier list for this. I don't feel like gathering images for the tier list of games that I have never played before for the most part. Blazing Lasers looks like a generic space shooter. Only space shooter I need is Galaga. That's my go-to. I'm sure this is fine, probably passable. Bases loaded, pass, don't care at all about real baseball, or even less so, fake baseball in video games. Maybe a Super Mario Sluggers, but not just generic MLB-looking baseball with the fucking Walgreens W on your hat. Fuck that. Mega Turrican is giving me, like, kind of Contra vibes, like side-scroller shooting game. Seems to be vaguely that, so it's got 3.5. I've only played a little bit of Contra, probably like up to level 3 of that. You know, middle of the pack. Cybernator and Rolling Thunder, both giving me the same vibes. This just looks like a less cool version of these two. This is giving me, maybe just because of the name, Terminator or RoboCop vibes. Similar ranking, 3.3. It also invokes Contra here in this review. Leon likes it, so I'm sure it's pretty good. And then Rolling Thunder, lower rating. Yeah, it doesn't really grab me. Look at this. Look at these horny posters. Game art used to be like a lot. I know like people make a lot of like horny game art nowadays, but it's always been like this. Even back when things were just pixels, you had to show some skin on the box art to get little boys to buy your games. Sad state of affairs, the 80s, and now as well. Dynastic Hero, that's giving like Mega Man meets like Shantae. I don't know, what is this? It's got 3.6 on the TurboGrafx, so okay. I actually own a couple of TurboGrafx games. Played a couple of them back in like, maybe like 2014. Adventure platformer, can't go wrong with those. It's got one review here. Well, it's only, it's got 3.6 because 3 or 4 people have actually reviewed it, so maybe it's actually trash, I don't know. It's got 14 plays across the website, even with it being on the Nintendo Wii eShop. So, then again, it was probably defunct by the time this website was made, but Dynastic Hero looks kind of fun from the box art, but I'm a little hesitant based on how few people have played it. I'll put it in the middle. Everything's going in the middle. Bubble Bobble, I've definitely played. Is that like the match 3? Oh no, this is like a platformer. What the fuck am I thinking? Am I thinking of Bust a Move? Why did I think it was like a game where you had like a cannon and you shoot things to match 3? Like a Snood, but not Snood? Maybe I'm thinking of something else, if anyone knows. This is like the game where you're the 2 dragons and you're like a top-down kind of platformy maze type thing, I think. It seems pretty time-honored and beloved. It's got 2.2 thousand plays. But again, if it's like a puzzly platform game, I don't really care about that as an entire genre, so... lower middle, probably. Double Dribble, don't care about basketball games. Never even played NBA Jam, just don't care at all. Probably at the bottom next to the baseball game. Double Dragon, that's like one of those like perennial like NES classics, isn't it? I've probably played it at some point in my life. Oh, this doesn't appear to be the Nintendo version. Is it this version is the Nintendo? This is the Game Gear version. How many fucking Double Dragons are there? Super Double Dragon? Was on the Super Famicom and the SNES. They've all got pretty low ratings. You always hear about these games as like old school classic Nintendo games, but I guess they just kind of sucked, so I don't know. I'm not big on the beat 'em up genre. The closest thing I've ever played to something like that is maybe a Wario World. which is a fine game. It's not one of my go-to GameCube games. Double Dragon, I could probably do without. F-Zero, everyone always hypes these up and talks them up. When it comes to racing games, unless they're kart racers, I just don't really care. I find the concept of racing and like more realistic cars with no like stage gimmicks or hazards or like items to be boring. Maybe F-Zero has all of that and I'm just not aware of it. It appears to me the gimmick is that you go really, really, really fast. Which it just doesn't really, like, Captain Falcon's a cool guy. I know everyone wants this series to, like, be revived, but, like, I don't know, I don't really care. Lower half, for sure. Donkey Kong Jr. Math, I mean, the only genre I like less than sports games would be math games, so we'll put that bottom of the barrel. Ninja Gaiden, to my understanding, and I'm sure I've played the first one in some capacity, but really hard, balls-to-the-wall fucking games. I would assume and think, just based on my knowledge of other games, that they probably get easier as they go. So if I had to pick one, I'd probably just try my luck with Ninja Gaiden 3. Is it Gaiden or Gaiden? I never knew. They say Gaiden in the song. Again, I think it's kind of like with Castlevania. You know, with save states, maybe, but even then, a lot of these older games don't appeal to me. Like, I feel like, you know, they needed to happen for the culture, for the gaming zeitgeist. But in terms of, like, going back and playing them now, I don't know if anyone's really arguing that these are, you know, top 100 games of all time, in terms of, like, the act of playing them. In terms of their influence, I could see a case for Ninja Gaiden being top 100, maybe even top 50. But, I think you'd be kidding yourself to say, like, this is, like, a really fun experience to have. So, for that reason, probably lower middle of the pack. And then, Cruisin' USA, again, another boring-sounding racing game. Set in a fucking boring country. I don't want to, you know, race around rural America, which is what this looks like here. Fucking cacti and mesas and shit. Who cares? Snooze. Boring. So yeah, Cruisin' USA down there with the basic sports games and DK Jr. Math. That's my ranking of the Wii Shop Wednesday games. Thanks for the question, T-Mac. Question 4 comes from Anonymous, who says, do you know what your Myers-Briggs personality type is? I know it's not everyone's thing, but just curious. And then they dropped the link to the personality quiz for me there. Yes, every time I've taken the Myers-Briggs personality type quiz, I always get INFP, which, according to this specific website, is the mediator type. Poetic, kind, and altruistic people, always eager to help a good cause. I don't know, Myers-Briggs is probably only a little bit removed from astrology in terms of, like, the validity of, you know, determining what a person is like. Like, I'm sure it's obviously more capable of, like, categorizing people than, like, the stars, because you're at least, like, answering questions here, I guess. But, you know, you can't really box a person into, you know, a neat little definition, I don't think. Just like with astrology, there are things that, you know, I look at the Libra description, and I'm like, oh, that seems like me, but that also doesn't seem like me at all. I like to think that I am a kind person. Am I altruistic? I don't know. I've never really believed in altruism, to be honest. I've always thought that for most good deeds that you do, there is some other ulterior motive there, whether it's, you know, recognition or just the feeling that you get for doing something good. Like, that in itself, I think, invalidates the sort of conception of altruism, right? Like, I can anonymously donate to a cause and not tell anybody about it, but part of that would be because it would, like, make me feel good about myself. And maybe that's fine, maybe those things can coexist, but I think there's always some sort of selfish undertones to everything at the end of the day. Maybe that's a cynical way to look at things, but you know, I like to think I'm a generally empathetic person. I definitely identify with the description on the INFP page here about feeling directionless or stuck until you connect with a sense of purpose. And for many, this purpose has something to do with uplifting others. For me, it's like, you know, I like to make stuff for people to watch and to make people laugh and to make them happy. And I definitely did feel directionless until I landed on that as something that I was gonna, you know, pursue full time. I like to think I'm, you know, a relatively creative person. I'm definitely more introverted than extroverted, even as somebody who, you know, is very public-facing and streams and makes videos and stuff. I definitely need to, you know, cool down and have some recharging time when I'm done with those things. Of course, I'm talking about all of this. I don't know if everyone watching even knows, like, what this is, but the Myers-Briggs personality test is, like, each category is, like, 4 letters. and each spot in that acronym has like 2 different options. So you could be a bunch of different combinations of these 4 letters. You could either be I or E, introverted or extroverted. You could be N or S, intuitive or observant. I don't know why they didn't make that one O. You could be either feeling or thinking, and you could be either judging or prospecting, which, to be honest, I don't fully know the difference between those 2 without reading them. But yeah, INFP, mediator. I overthink. I wanna please people, and I'm generally introverted, I would say. That's my jam. So take the quiz if you haven't. It's fun. I like doing little dumb quizzes. Even if I don't believe in astrology or anything like this, it's still fun to take a look at it, you know, whatever. Thanks for the question, Anonymous. Question 5 comes from John, and John says, "Hey Pat, what's up?" Not a ton, John. Thanks for asking. This has probably come up 1,001 times, but what do you think Kingdom Hearts would look like if it were a Nintendo crossover instead of Disney? Who would take whose place? I'm of the mindset that Mario would be Mickey, Luigi would be Goofy, and Blue Toad would be Donald. What are your thoughts? Thank you for the question, John. Yeah, it's definitely been brought up a few times, like here and there on stream, but we've never like done the deep dive exercise on exactly how it would look. We did do it for what a Nickelodeon Kingdom Hearts would look like, probably back in 2021 if I had to guess. That is on the second channel if you search Nickelodeon in the search bar on that channel. I naturally made a little spreadsheet while I was eating and tried to kind of piece the puzzle together on what a Nintendo Kingdom Hearts would look like, only really adapting the first game, and then you can kind of go from there and extrapolate further. I'll be honest, when you proposed Mickey, Mario, Luigi, Goofy, Blue Toad, Donald, I was like, man, it just sucks because I hate Blue and Yellow Toad. I think they're such wastes. There's such a plague throughout the new Super Mario Bros. Series, and I just like, can we play as actual characters? Like, it took them until Wonder to let you play as, you know, Daisy. You still can't play as like a Wario or Waluigi in a mainline Mario game. Of course, there is a debate on what is a mainline Mario game, as we all know. So yeah, Blue Toad or Toad, I guess, has to be Donald, because there's... The problem with Mario is he doesn't have, like, 2 peers that are, like, equal to him and also are, like, good alignment, you know? Because obviously, like, Peach is going to be the mini, right? Like, Peach is going to be the one at Disney Castle, in this case, Peach's Castle in the Mushroom Kingdom, you know, rallying Luigi and Blue Toad to go off and find Mario. And of course, Daisy would be Daisy. And instead of a gummy ship, you would pilot the Odyssey, and Cappy and Tiara would be your Chip and Dale. And Pluto is the Yoshi. I thought maybe we can make it so it's Luigi and Yoshi, but then you got like 2 green guys, and that fucks up the color feng shui, and that's annoying. And like, Yoshi doesn't talk. I guess Blue Toad just goes, "Mah, mah," but, you know, they speak in RPG games, right? So yeah, Yoshi's Pluto. And I think, like, Bowser, if we're doing, like, the 1-for-1, is not going to appear in this game. I think Bowser is the Pete, which might be weird considering, like, Bowser is, like, the big bad of Mario. But I think through, like, the Mario RPG games, like, Mario and Luigi, Paper Mario, like, I more so view Bowser as, like, a big dumb oaf character more than, like, a genuinely intimidating villain. So I think either him or Wario would fit, like, the Pete archetype pretty well. So I'd put Bowser there as the Pete, and then I think you make Maleficent... And there were a couple of permutations I ran through with this, but I think Taboo from Super Smash Bros. Brawl as, like, the big bad Nintendo entity. Obviously, in the Subspace Emissary in Brawl, it's like Master Hand is pulling the strings, but it's actually... Well, actually, isn't it like... It's like Bowser who's being manipulated by Ganondorf, who's being manipulated by Master Hand, who's actually being manipulated by Taboo. So, Taboo is more so like the Xehanort or Xemnas, but in terms of, like, a Nintendo origin, Taboo also doesn't talk, so I don't know, it's complicated. I think Ganondorf is the closest thing there is to, like, a Maleficent in terms of, like, genuine imposing energy in the Nintendo universe, but, like, not having a Zelda world in the first Nintendo Mushroom Kingdom Hearts game, that'd be weird, right? So I just made Agrabah Hyrule, and then Jafar is Ganondorf on the council with all the other villains. You know what? No, maybe... What if it's Medusa from Kid Icarus? That could, you know, Medusa, Maleficent, similar imposing stature. You know, they're both, like, badass female villains, maybe. I've never played Kid Icarus, but I assume from, you know, what I've seen through the Smash Bros. Presence. I don't think you need a Kid Icarus world in the first Kingdom Hearts game, so one of the two there. Taboo Medusa, you know, as a big bad for the Disney villains or the Nintendo villains. So in the Nickelodeon version of this exercise, we tried to figure out like the 7 princesses of heart again. Well, 6 because Kairi still stays because she's, you know, an original character. But then I was like, there's really just not enough. Sadly, I don't think there's like a large enough roster of like prominent female Nintendo characters, like, and the ones that you are already thinking of, we're already using in like different roles here, you know? And I'm like, I'm not gonna relegate Samus to like Princess of Heart status. You want her in your party at some point, you know? Like, sure, you got Peach, Daisy, Rosalina, Pauline, but they're all from the Mario franchise, so like that fucks things up. So we're gonna do away with the idea that like the 7 MacGuffin collectibles, in this case, the princesses, they're not gonna be people, they're gonna be, we're just gonna use the Crystal Stars from Paper Mario. Or the Star Spirits, whatever. It's gonna be 7 items instead, and Kairi just has one of the Crystal Stars, like, as her necklace. So they still capture Kairi for that reason. And then the Crystal Stars are just scattered throughout the worlds. Like, there's one in Wonderland, there's one in Agrabah, or in this case, the Nintendo equivalent. And you collect those 2. But then the villains have the other ones. Okay, here's our world roster, because I know that's what you're really waiting for here. So Disney Castle, Peach's Castle, obvious. Wonderland, I'm changing to Motherland. I'm assuming that's what they call the world of the Mother/Earthbound franchise. Maybe you'd go to, and again, I only really know about Mother and Earthbound from Smash, maybe Fourside or Onett, one of those, you know, the starting town. I don't really know what you would do there. Porky, though, would be the Queen of Hearts, obviously. That's all I really got there. I think in the Nickelodeon exercise, we tried to, like, do a 1-for-1 in terms of, like, the vibe of the world. But in this case, I think we have a limited roster of what we can choose from for Nintendo. So instead of, like, trying to 1-for-1 match the vibe, and I mean, in this case, it kind of works. Like, Wonderland is very, like, wacky and fantastical. I feel like there's some similar energy there in the Mother franchise. There's like enemies kind of named wacky things. It's overall just kind of like a goofy environment, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But in this case, it's like, well, you know what would be perfect for the 99 Dalmatians? It would be like collecting Pokemon. But to only have Pokemon represented through being like collectibles and chests and to show up at like, you know, Professor Oak's lab in Traverse Town, like I think that'd be kind of underwhelming. Pokemon is such a huge part of Nintendo. So I made Olympus Coliseum a Pokemon Stadium, or like the Elite Four or something like that. In the first game, you're just like in a stadium doing battles, and then in a KH2 or 3, you would go to like different regions or towns or something to explore the world more fully. Obviously, Giovanni would be the Hades there, or you can make it Mewtwo, I guess. I mean, Mewtwo is just misunderstood. There's not, like, evil Pokemon, at least not in Gen 1, except Goldeen, of course. Because you gotta have Pokemon show up in, like, all 3 main games and even some side games, because it's just fucking huge. Of course, I feel like only having Mario represented through Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and, like, the cutscenes at the beginning of the game, that's a bit underwhelming for someone who'd be hypothetically buying a Nintendo Mushroom Kingdom Hearts. But then, of course, in KH2, you'd visit the castle, you'd go back to 8-Bit World for the Timeless River. In A Birth by Sleep, you would explore all of, like, Toad Town. Obviously, Rumble Racing happens in place of Mario Kart. Dance Dance Revolution Mario Mix in place of Ice Cream Beat, of course. And Mario Hoops 3-on-3 in place of Fruit Ball. Duh! So that's easy. Moving on. Now, I know I said we weren't going like 1-for-1 in terms of vibes, but I think like having the Conga Jungle, the DK level in place of Deep Jungle works pretty well. I think you don't need more than one Donkey Kong level. I feel like just having like a Donkey Kong Country style level with a DK party member, King K. Rool as Clayton, that works pretty easy for KH1. I don't think you need to bring that back for subsequent installments. As I said, Agrabah is Hyrule, Ganondorf is the Jafar, Link is the Aladdin, and even though we're not doing Princess of Heart, obviously Zelda is the Jasmine. There's some plot there. You get Midna as a summon in place of Genie. She was just the first character I thought of, maybe because she gets an assist trophy in Brawl and maybe some other Smash games. But I think she works well as like a summonable character. Of course, Simba would be Little Mac, because in Mushroom Kingdom Hearts 2, there's going to be a sort of punch-out level where Pride Lands goes, with Mike Tyson being Scar at the end, or Super Macho Man, or whatever. I'll just go through the other summons while we're here. Bambi would be Springman. I don't think we need an Arms World in any of the games, so a one-off summon like Bambi who doesn't have a world getting, you know, sort of a corollary with Springman from ARMS. I think that works out pretty well. And then Dumbo, I'm going with Chibi Robo. I don't know what these summons do for the record, but I'm just picking the characters. And then Mushu is going to be Pit. I think there should be a Kid Icarus world at some point, so that'll be the Land of Dragons spot in KH2, which does fuck up the Medusa of it all, so I guess we have to go for Taboo, unless anyone can think of a better Disney villain, or a Nintendo villain that I haven't already used. And for the 99 Dalmatians, by the way, it's going to be Nintendogs, obviously. It's just a bunch of different breeds. Are there 99 breeds of dog? Maybe not. Maybe it's like, alright, here's 3 Shih Tzus, here's 3, Border Collies, here's 3 Dalmatians. You can do whatever you want. Here's where things get interesting. We have, in place of Monstro, I'm going to get a little inventive here. I want a Pikmin world, obviously. I think you gotta have it in the first Kingdom Hearts. And I think it's going to be like a space Bulblax. It's like a big Bulblax that has evolved to be spacefaring, and you're inside the Bulblax. And for whatever reason, this species of Bulblax, it ate Pikmin, but it hasn't yet digested them. And so you're shrunken down inside this Bulblax, and your Jiminy Cricket all along this whole time was Captain Olimar, because Olimar is known for taking dubious notes. This is Editing Pat. I want to issue an apology to Captain Olimar. I said dubious here when I meant studious. Dubious would mean notes of a potentially sketchy quality. Studious was what I meant. Similar sounding words, very different meaning. Alright. Back to the awesome content, and, you know, keeping journal entries and, you know, letting you know about the world that you're in and the enemies that you encounter. So I think that's perfect. They're also both really small, so I think it works out perfect. And then, like, yeah, you don't get a Pikmin world in a 2 or 3, but you get to go back and go to the distant planet itself in the Dream Drop of Mushroom Kingdom Hearts. And then, you gotta have Kirby show up in the first Mushroom Kingdom Hearts, so I think Atlantica is gonna be Dreamland, with King Dedede as Ursula. Obviously, you're paired up with Kirby as your Ariel. And I think in Mushroom Kingdom Hearts 2, you have like a Kirby Superstar Ultra kind of situation with the minigame version of the world, where you're just doing minigames instead of usual combat stuff. Halloween Town is a spooky place, and I have not played a ton of Metroid, but I see Metroid as kind of a spooky Nintendo franchise. So obviously you go to what I have written down here as Metroid Land, maybe Brinstar or Planet Zebes. That's all I know from Smash Bros. But obviously Ridley in place of Oogie Boogie, Samus in place of Jack Skellington. Pretty easy there. I think Metroid is big enough that coming back for a Mushroom Kingdom Hearts 2 makes sense. I just realized I never used Fire Emblem, and that's probably a mistake. It probably would make sense to be in the place of Olympus Colosseum, but I don't know where else. I think Pokemon's gotta make an appearance in all 3 games. Maybe Fire Emblem's just the big snub that you don't get until... You know what? Fire Emblem will be in the second game as Port Royal. You come back in KH3 to the Caribbean. That works out, I think. Gotta have one big snub from the first game. For the first game in our actual reality, I think that was Lion King. It gets representation in 2, works out. And so for Neverland, I thought, well, you're flying around in the Odyssey to different Nintendo worlds. I think in this case, you get intercepted by Wolf's ship from Star Fox. I think you gotta have Star Fox show up at some point in the series. I guess the Lilac Cruiser, or you're just in like Corneria, something like that. Venom, just again naming things from Smash Bros. That I know. Wolf is the Captain Hook replacement. You're allied with Fox, and you get a Slippy Toad summon. When you have Slippy summoned, he makes you auto-dodge attacks because you do a barrel roll. I'm coming up with a lot of this on the fly now. And then I forgot to give a replacement for Beast. So what's something that we haven't used yet that could replace Beast in a hypothetical... You know what? How about Wario? It's Wario, and he's trying to rescue Mona from Mona's Pizza in the WarioWare series. There's got to be something better than that, but I can't think of anything that we haven't used. Maybe... I haven't used Splatoon yet. Could we have an Inkling, maybe? Of course, I forgot to mention that we're going to have, in place of Merlin, it'll be Dr. Loeb from Big Brain Academy, and Fairy Godmother is the Girl Boss Queen, the Wii Fit trainer. So she'll help you bring back the summon gems, but you have to do squats and sit-ups to build up a strong enough core so that you can break the summon gem off of your rock-hard abs and then release the creature from within. This was 16 minutes again. So hopefully I have fleshed out... Oh wait, of course, I forgot 100 Acre Wood. In place of that, you go to an Animal Crossing village. That shows up in all 3 games. Animal Crossing is huge. It's peaceful, non-violent. You help... you actually find displaced villagers and special characters throughout the other Nintendo worlds, and you bring them back to the Animal Crossing village located within the 100 Acre Wood book, which in this case is actually... Cap'n has a boat parked in the murky water where the rocks move outside of Merlin, aka Dr. Loeb's house, and he takes you to the island, and that's where you rehome the villagers that you find on your travels. There. Fucking nailed it. My brain is huge. Thank you so much for the question, John. Let's-a go, woohoo, yippee, etc. Question 6 comes from Ruthie, longtime moderator, patron, good old Ruthie Henshaw fan 99, who says, unfortunately, I was too slow in regards to asking for a Disney princess tier list. I saw yours and I have a ton of notes, see me after class, so I'm asking this, have you watched the life-changing restoration of Cinderella, and if so, discuss why it's so wonderful? Ruthie. Sweet, naive Ruthie. Ruthie, I think you knew the answer to this question before he asked it. Whatever version of Cinderella I watched is the one that comes up when you type in Cinderella on Disney+. I am what you might call an oaf. I don't really often notice, like, small visual changes. I mean, listen, you're probably screaming and saying, it's not small, the dress is the wrong fucking color in the old one, and now they fixed it. But, you know, I'm a dumb man. I don't notice these things. Where is it available? Is it on Disney+? Like, I watched Cinderella for the first time in the summer of 2020, and I haven't seen it again since, so how accessible is that? I'm sure you have a multi-page document that goes through all of the changes made. No, I'm sad to say I have not, at least not to my knowledge. I don't think I have. Pretty sure this restoration is newer, but Ruthie had another question as well. I'm gonna save it for another time, but I do appreciate you asking, Ruthie, even though you know that I haven't. Thanks for the question. Question 8, yes 8, we're not even close to done, comes from Hollow, who says, hey Pat, do you think a game, either KH or non-KH, could ever take KH1's spot as your favorite game of all time? Or do you think the game's already solidified that spot for the rest of your life? Yeah, and highly doubtful, I think, that KH1 ever gets toppled. I have never tried to obfuscate the fact that nostalgia does play a severe role in my personal rankings of games. I always say it's a list of my favorites, not a list of what I think are the best games that I've ever played. I mean, do I think that KH1 is objectively, like, the best game ever made? No, I do not. I think it's a very good game. It's the best game that I've played, I think. And it's my favorite. I honestly, though, I think if something were to come along, it probably wouldn't be a KH game that would topple KH1 as my favorite. A large part of why KH1 is at that spot for me is, like, the early childhood mystique and nostalgic experience of playing that game for the first time. And just the wonderment that it imparted on me the first time through, that's hard to match, it's hard to replicate. And I don't think anything has ever really come close since 2002. Like, you look at something like a Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, which are lauded, and I like both of those games a lot, and they're both beautiful and really fun to explore, and there is this sense of wonder to them, but for me, it doesn't even hold a candle to what I felt as a 6-year-old playing KH1, and you're never gonna feel that again because you're not 6 anymore. But that's okay, you know? I have no doubt that a KH4 or another KH game could crack into my top 10, could dethrone 2 or 3 on their spots. But for number 1, I mean, there's a pretty big gap between 1 and 3 for me. I love 3, but there's still, like, a considerable distance between 3 and even some games in, like, my personal top 5. So, like, in terms of, like, dream crafting a game that could potentially take the top spot, like, I don't even know where to begin. Like, I can't think of something that I would find more personally meaningful to me than the first Kingdom Hearts, which sounds crazy to say, but it's true. Like, what would it look like? What would be the premise? What would be the genre? I don't know. I have no idea. My dream game is Kingdom Hearts 1. That it is. It already exists. It's been made. It's only downhill from there. Kind of depressing. What can you do? Thank you for the question, Hollow. Question 9 comes from Wario Strife, who says, any interest in returning to Disney's Extreme Skate Adventure for a stream? I missed out on seeing that live, but the VOD is like my favorite stream of yours. I was a massive fan of that game growing up, and there's some wild stuff in it I think you missed out on. Thank you for the question, Wario. I do recall that you submitted Alien Slime Drink It All the Time as a sound drop for the bracket. Unfairly snubbed, I think. A lot of practical application for that on stream, I would say, but the masses just weren't feeling it. Yeah, the Disney skating game was a stream that I, like, as it was happening, I was like, this is an all-timer. Like, it wasn't even, like, anything I was saying. It was just, like, me navigating this ridiculous world of the Deciverse that I was not at all familiar with prior to playing the game. The saga of Ryan and Captain Salty and Kid Patty, the Piss Trail in the Pride Lands, the Nokia Challenge, getting to talk to McDonald's, Leslie with her white dreads, a ton of fun. I think that'd be a really fun game to return to as like a sub goal, or maybe part of the Finny fundraiser that I'm sort of making in my head as we ramp up towards my big move in August. I think maybe like making this like a mid-tier goal, like, hey, Pat's gonna either go back to Disney Skate Adventure and play that until we reach the next goal, or maybe just try to 100% it or something, I don't know. I actually did play it a little bit after the stream with regular GF because she grew up with that game. It was one of her favorites growing up. And we definitely went around to the worlds that I missed out on, or the different areas that I didn't visit during the stream. But that was, you know, long enough ago that I feel like I didn't fully internalize all of the other potential wackiness that we came across. So it would all still probably be fairly fun and enchanting to experience for a technical revisit. And I mean, like, the gameplay is fun. Like, I was mostly focused on, like, the goofiness and just kind of fucking around during that stream. But it is, like, satisfying, and I just like the little challenges, and I think I may have ended up doing, like, all of the Andy's Room challenges while she was here. So if anything, like, that's something that I'm pretty intimately familiar with, like getting stuck on the fucking bathtub trying to get all of the collectibles in there, the batteries or something, I think. I feel like we didn't get enough out of, like, the Tarzan levels. Like, I know we did go visit Clayton when she was with me. Really nice date that I went on with her. Go visit Clayton in the Clayton's ship level of Disney Skate Adventure. We have the best dates. But yeah, in short, I think it'd be really fun to return to, maybe sometime soon. I still have the totally legitimate PS2 disc on my PS2. So, it can happen. Thank you for the question, Wario Strife. Question 10 comes from Binion, who says, hey Pat, I've been enjoying how much your little KH connection quizzes make me use my KH knowledge, and I'm looking forward to more like it. Reminds me, I forgot to post one this past week. If you're watching this and you missed it, if you don't follow me on Twitter or don't have it, I mean, if you have Twitter and you're watching this, I feel like you should probably be following me, but no worries if you don't have Twitter, it's a bad site. There's this New York Times game called Connections, and there's a website that lets you make your own puzzles. So I've been making a couple of KH-themed ones where you have to, like, find the connective category between a bunch of different characters on the grid. Not that grid, the grid of boxes in the Connections game. So thank you for enjoying those, Binion. I had an idea similar to a guess the character from this extreme close-up game, but with environments instead, like landmarks, a detail on the wall, plant life and foliage, or just brick patterns on a sidewalk. From there, we would have to guess what world that screenshot was taken, and if it's a world present in more than one game, we'd have to specify the game too. Just a fun little thing I thought of. I'm loving all the content, and wish you luck with your current project. You're gonna need it. This was May 8th, so that would have been when I was, you know, in the depths of the Dream Drop world ranking. So thank you, Binion. Appreciate that. Yeah, I love this idea. I'm a big fan of the Guess the Game website as well. I think it's just guessthegame.com. There's a different game every day, and it starts off with, like, I know Smosh played it on their channel a few times. It starts off with, like, a very kind of vague and really close-up image of something, and then if you can't get it on that first guess, you get a little bit more context in the next one. I think you get, like, 5 pictures total. You get a little bit more information about the game, like what platforms it was on, what year it came out, its Metacritic score. So yeah, I think it would be really fun to have a KH Worldle, where it's like, maybe it's just like one image, but it's really zoomed in and it gradually zooms out, and you have to, you know, guess from a drop-down which world and which iteration of the world it is. I think that could be really fun. Obviously, there's only so many KH worlds, but you could, you know, go out throughout the different parts of the world, pick different imagery, and, you know, slowly zoom out from that as well. If I had the know-how, the technical programming skills, I bet Water would be able to make something like that pretty easily. You just need somebody dedicated to, like, getting the images and, you know, uploading them however many times the game would play, whether it's daily or weekly or what. But yeah, we should make this a thing. Maybe I'll talk to Water about it. He's already got a lot going on, though, so I don't know, but I love that idea, Binion. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate it. Actual question 10, because I think I said the last one was 10. This is 10. Comes from Anonymous, who says, love your work. Which avatar The Last Airbender bending would you most want? Thank you, Anonymous, for saying that, and thanks for the question. You know, I've always felt that personality-wise, I think I lean water or air, and I do think those are the most useful bending types. I don't think I have the, you know, the strong silent type going on for earth bending, nor do I have the inner rage for fire bending. I lack the energy to fire bend. I know there's like Avatar fans that were like, you don't have to be angry to fire bend, but that's, what, you know, whatever. I know it's not necessarily that your personality informs what type of bending you get, but, you know, I tend to view fire as like an aggressive, emotional sort of bending type, just mainly because of Zuko's behavior in the first, you know, half of the series. I know there are firebenders who are like cool, calm, and collected, but whatever. Because I feel like I am very go with the flow, hence the water affinity. But also, you know, I like to have fun, depending on the kind of fun that it is. I feel like I don't take things too seriously, so I feel like that's a very, you know, light sort of easygoing personality for airbending. In terms of like practicality, I mean, like if I can, you know, even fly and or hover with airbending, then that would be go-to. Although I think we might overestimate how useful it would be to fly. Like, because if I were to fly anywhere and I had to like bring stuff or take stuff from where I'm going, like then I gotta, it's just me, right? Even if I have a glider thing, I still gotta like, can that thing hold luggage, you know? It's not like I can go fly to any destination and not like bring shit that I'm gonna need. Like, if I fly to the grocery store, I gotta fucking carry all my groceries back while I'm flying. Like, how practical is it really? It's probably better to just use a car. Sucks. But I think water bending could be useful, especially if I could blood bend and maybe just go to public appearances of certain people, and maybe from the crowd I could enact my will as a joke in Minecraft. What if late Yagami could blood bend? That's an anime theory. I think if there was like one of those transphobic hats from Hogwarts that tells you what school you're in, if that were applicable to the Avatar world, I think the sorting mechanism would probably place me in the airbending category, but I do think water might be slightly more useful. Water is everywhere, then again, air is even everywhere-er. You know, because they say Earth is 75% water, or is that the body? Or is it both? But air, that's gotta be a big percentage too, I figured, I do reckon. So, fucking no, air for both. Air for what I think I would be sorted into, and what I think would be the most useful. For my purposes, like if there's a game on my desk and I need to get it closer to me, I can just do some fucking airlifty stuff and bring it on over. That's what I need it for, fuck. So yeah, final answer, air. Thank you for the question, Anonymous. Question 11 comes from Nick, who says, wow, Square Enix has requested that you put together the list of summons for Kingdom Hearts 4. There are no limitations. They can be a new Disney or Square Enix character from an unknown world, a returning summon, or even another Keyblade wielder. Who are the 5 characters you choose, and how will they work in battle? Thank you for the question, Nick. I thought about this deeply in the shower. So my general rule of thumb for, like, fan casting the summons is that I don't want repeats. I'm sick, like, I didn't care about Ariel or Stitch or Simba in KH3. I mean, the one that was most exciting was Ariel because she had never existed in the summon capacity, but to do Simba and Stitch again, especially Simba, after going from summon to party member back to summon, like, I just don't care anymore. Use something else. Use a property. Maybe it's because they're, like, leaving their doors open so they can, like, not blow one of these characters on a summon instead of using them for a full world later on, but even then, it's like, they use Simba and Mushu in 1 and bring the whole worlds in for 2, so, like, I don't know, just write it into the story. But yeah, I don't want repeats. I want stuff from worlds that were not going to get to play in. I think that's like the sweet spot. I think Dumbo and Bambi and Chicken Little, on the flip side, worlds that I do think would be cool but just aren't going to happen because time has passed them by, or they just don't really fit into the vibe that a specific Cage game is going for. I think those are prime spots as well. Like, obviously, Treasure Planet, one of my, you know, most wanted worlds, had a chance in Dream Drop, but at that point it was a 10-year-old movie. Now it's a 22-year-old movie, I think. So, like, Treasure Planet's not going to happen. So give me Morph. Morph is always the answer that I give when anyone asks me the summon question. I've always kind of reconceptualized how Morph would work over the years as I've been asked this, but I think just, like, being a copy of Sora, and he maybe does, like, he, like, copies your moves, but he does, like, a quarter or half of the damage as to not make him too OP. Or maybe he copies one of your party members, or he even copies one of the enemies that you're fighting, and he, you know, exists on the field, and he, like, copies the moves of those enemies, but at, like, a more aggressive and quicker rate, something like that. Kind of like a Kirby-esque sort of summon. For my second choice, I want more theme park representation. I want Figment. Another thing that I once conceptualized in the KH 1992 video, I believe. I think in that video, I sort of viewed it as, like, a genie. I think he was the genie replacement. And he just did, like, a general, vague magicry. But I think it would be fun if Figment, like, I don't know that much about him. I rode the ride at Epcot a few times, but I just like his vibe and his design. He's just very fun and whimsical. I kind of like the idea of him just, like, fucking around, just, like, doing bullshit. So I think it'd be funny if, like, okay, here's how you use Figment. And I think summons should be shaken up a bit, because every summon that we've had is, like, they join you out on the field and they work with you and they provide some benefit, which I like that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I don't think every summon needs to be that way. I think we can also have summons where it's just, like, you summon it, they cast their effect, it lasts however long, and they just do that one thing and then they're gone. And I think that's what Figment would be. I'd like the idea of Figment being summoned, and he replaces Sora's Keyblade with, like, some sort of, like, wet noodle, like a pool noodle, or, like, something very inoffensive. Like, something that's, like, wooden sword levels of damage. Maybe not that bad, but, like, I want the damage to be reduced, but in turn, the drop rates for everything you kill with your pool noodle Keyblade is increased significantly. So Figment would be used as, like, a way to cut down on the synthesis grind. But you would have to, like, pick and choose where you use him. Maybe you want to, like, get an enemy down to very low health before you summon Figment, but then you gotta make sure your party members don't kill it, so it's kind of like a little gamble. Like, maybe it'll help you in the long run save time, or maybe your attack and magic being reduced so significantly by the Figment debuff doesn't make it worth it. You have to, like, you know, pick and choose your spots to use the Figment summon. I've talked myself into this. I like it. Number 3, we're bringing back Bahamut from the KH1 cut content. I think it'd be really fun to finally have a proper Final Fantasy summon, not counting Clown from Chain of Memories. No one counts that, come on now. So I envision, like, FF10 style Bahamut, and with Bahamut, you have to fill his overdrive gauge to trigger Mega Flare, which is a screen wipe. And in order to fill the overdrive gauge, you have to fulfill certain battle requirements that Bahamut requests of you. So on the screen, you'll see, like, a fire icon, and you gotta kill an enemy with a fire spell, or launch a certain amount of fire spells, or you have to guard a couple of times, or do a shot lock. So you have to, like, please Bahamut before he is willing to fully offer his services. In the meanwhile, he will be doing basic attacks, your claw swipes, your impulse, your tier 3 magics here and there. But if you want the true screen wipe, and this obviously wouldn't work on bosses, but it would still do a considerable amount, you have to fill up his overdrive gauge, and to do that, you gotta play a little game with him. You have to show him your might, or do a flow motion attack, or heal a party member. It's just, like, 3 things that you gotta do to trigger the Mega Flare. Maybe that's too OP, maybe it's too annoying, maybe nobody would use it if you have to go through this song and dance of getting the true benefit of the summon, but maybe it should take a lot, because Bahamut's still doing some pretty good damage with his basic moves without the overdrive, so... Or maybe you have to summon him multiple times for him to do the overdrive at all. Like, you summon him the first time, he's doing his basic shit, summon him a second time, he's still doing that, but on the third time, because you summoned him thrice, his overdrive gauge is now active, and you can trigger that whenever you want, so you just have to build it up over time. Something like that. Number 4 is going to be a dual summon, not the kids from the Michigan parking lot dual-wielding, but rather from an era of Disney film that I think is underrepresented, and of all the eras it should be, but the package era films of the 40s and the early 50s. These are like the wartime films, no coherent plot lines, some of them made as goodwill films towards different nations. So I think it'd be fun to have some of Donald's old buddies, and Buffoon, cover your ears because I'm not going to do this right, Jose Carioca and Panchito Pistoles. I feel like if the white guy tries to do the Spanish accent, then it's cringe, right? And I looked it up, and I thought it was Jose Carioca, but apparently it's closer to say Jose Carioca. But yeah, Jose, Panchito. They're just running around, causing chaos. They would be a summon that just stays out on the field, like your traditional types. You know, Jose's got his umbrella, he's whacking fools. Panchito's got his pistoles. So, they would just be running around doing, you know, general damage. And then maybe, before their bar runs out, they would have, like, a team-up attack with Donald. I guess that would necessitate... Oh, no, because Donald would always be on the field, because with KH3 rules, Donald's always there. So, yeah. I like that. And then, for number 5, what the fuck did I pick for 5? I wrote this down. Oh, yes. So, I don't think we're ever going to get... I won't say I don't think we're ever going to get it, but I feel like it's unlikely that we get a Finding Nemo world. And I think Nemo is a pretty big name in the grander Disney scheme of things. But, you know, I think between Atlantica being a previous world and just having the Caribbean recently, and even Moana being something that I find to be, you know, pretty probable, I don't think we're going to be getting a Nemo world, but I think it deserves some representation. And of all the characters that I would like to see, or I think would be fun, and have an interesting effect, I think having Crush the Turtle show up, and he would be in a little bubble for safekeeping. Also, no, like, elemental bullshit. No, like, oh, it's not really Simba, he's like a fire spirit or some bullshit. I want the actual honest-to-God, honest-to-fucking Walt characters in the mix. I don't want this vague fucking plasma entities. It's bullshit. And Disney's very picky about who can interact with what and be in what spaces, and I think it's so stupid. Which is weird, because they have, like, their Disney Infinities and their Speed Storms, so, like, I don't know why KH has gotten these stricter parameters in the more recent years, but that's beside the point. Crush the Turtle, he would swim around, kind of in a Bambi-esque way, and he would generally cast, like, Sloga on the enemies. It probably wouldn't work, or not work as well on bosses. Yeah, on bosses he might actually be useless. Which, that's a thing with the summons, is that some of them are obviously better or worse for bosses or mob fights, but I feel like they all generally still work on either. But in the conception of the Crush summon, Crush is just generally causing all of Sora's combatants to move more slowly, which I think would just be cool and fun to have Sora, you know, zipping around fucking Quicksilver style, while everything else is slowly, you know, tromping around. That is my list of 5 summons. That was fun. Thank you for the question, Nick. Okay, we've made it. Question 12. This comes from definitely Courtney and not the cartoon Buffoon, which something about that makes me think it's from the cartoon Buffoon, but I don't know. Regardless, can you rank the different Moogle designs by cuteness? Here's a tier maker. And, I mean, this is posted by Buffoon and Ultima, so I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I recorded me doing this tier list for 6 minutes before realizing that my microphone was not on this particular OBS scene, so that is really disheartening. I gave my opinions on a lot of these Moogles. I'm going to try and recapture what I said, but it might be a little lower energy than the first time. So, to start off, I grew up with, and I'm not familiar with a ton of the Moogles. I can probably count the amount of unique Moogle designs I've seen in a game on one hand. But I grew up with, obviously, the KH Moogles, and, you know, I'm used to them, but I don't know if they're the cutest. Like, they're definitely on the upper half of the tier list, but, like, they never struck me as something that I found, like, excessively cute. So, I'm gonna put them in A, mostly for nostalgic purposes. Put the Orcoat one above because it's cute, that he's wearing clothing like a little person. But then, you know, we get to these more traditional Moogle designs because they really did deviate it pretty significantly for KH. I mean, I don't know about significantly, but, like, I just feel like the texture of a KH Moogle seems very, like, sleek and plasticky and shiny. Like, it doesn't seem like something that would be, like, fuzzy and furry to the touch. So a lot of these other ones have, like, some hair on them, some fur. I think that's cute. I like this little guy. I like his wings are much more pronounced. You'd almost forget that the KH version has wings. I don't know if it's cuter than the KH ones. It's the same tier at least. I like his little more pronounced happy eyes. And I like his little fur tuft. So I'm gonna put him up here. Ooh, and I love this next guy. I like that his wings are red as well. I like the matching with the pom-pom there. I like his little action pose. Honestly, he's S tier. I love him. This guy, this one's got black wings, and his pom-pom is like sort of like translucent or something. Like it doesn't look like a solid red orb. It looks like you can kind of see through it. It looks kind of like an orby, like a squishy guy. These pom-poms give me like sort of like dense foam sort of vibes, but this is like a gooey pom-pom, which I don't know if I like that. It also, is he holding a knife or something? He's got something, I think. He's fine. I'll put him in C tier. I don't really want to cuddle him too much. Now this one, is this like a chocobo, like half-breed Moogle, like a chocogole, Mooglebo? He's like a rough and tumble, like Western Ranger Moogle, but he has he looks kind of like he has a beak. He doesn't look like a round nose there. I guess this Moogle and this one lacks that as well. Like these are kind of thinner noses. I like the big round nose. There are some exceptions though, as I'm looking here. I don't know if he's cute, but he seems friendly. I'd have a beer with him if I liked beer. I'll put him in B. I like him. I love this guy. He looks really happy. I noticed that a lot of them have like cat ears, and I feel like that is a fun addition to the Moogle design. Probably the original earlier ones had that already, and the KH version kind of took that away. But I like that. This guy, he's ready for the hug right now. I love him. A tier. No, S tier. I don't know about this little guy. The yellow coloring is giving like stale, moldy, left out for too long Moogle. I don't like that fur tuft. Is that supposed to be like his mouth, like that he talks out of? It's just, I don't like the placement of it. I don't like the angle and the way that it's facing. His whiskers are too sharp. His wings just kind of look tacky and fake. I don't like him. He's not ugly. I just don't like him a lot, but I'm gonna put him in E tier. I also don't like this guy. Honestly, I think I'd like this one even less. He's like a grandpa Moogle. He looks old. He's like an elongated Moogle. Like, I don't like how, like, stretched out his torso is. I don't like his fur tuft. Maybe it's just the angle, but he just, I don't know, he's giving like old grandpa Moogle to me. I don't like him. I like this one. He's like a Pikachu looking Moogle. A tier. This guy, easily my favorite. A little superhero Moogle. You got a little champion's belt, a scarf. He's got the fucking recusant sigil on his hat, so Xemnas can keep track of him. S tier. These guys are like twin Moogles. They've got like a little like messenger bag or like a canteen or something like that. They're cute enough. Again, I like when they wear clothing. Have some shame, you know? I'll put them in B tier. Ooh, I like, this is just like a closer up version of these guys. And I just like their little bag. And his nose feels like kind of fleshier or something, or like fused into him more. Like it's like glowy, like a Rudolph type thing. I don't love the nose, I have to say, now that I'm looking at it. I like his little bag, but I think that's gonna knock him down to C tier. This is not a Moogle, that's Yuffie. You can't trick me. Some of these aren't Moogles, right? Some of these are just straight up rabbits. Like, these don't even count. Who am I to say what a Moogle is, but those are rabbits, and I don't care about them at all. So knock all of those out. Ooh, I just noticed this one. This is like I don't like that at all. It's not a real Moogle, clearly. It's like a doll of some kind. But I don't like its fucking Slenderman-ass limbs. E tier. There's something really unsettling about that. This guy seems like a crotchety, grumpy Moogle. Kind of polygonal. What is he, like FF8 or 9 maybe? He's fine. I'm not really feeling a ton there. C tier. I love this guy. I like his orange pom-pom, his red wings. He just looks like a cocky motherfucker. Is that a sword or a cane that he's leaning on there? Like, what is that? Love it. Love that. A tier. This guy looks like he's in pain. Looks like every day is a struggle for this Moogle. He just looks decrepit. Low. This guy looks inquisitive. He looks like he's asking, like for directions. He's pretty good. He kind of got a classical vibe to him. Put him in B tier. Well, you know where this one goes. That one goes in E tier. Is he wearing like a head wrap or something? Like a bandana? What is that? That aside, just the whole vibe of it is off. I don't like him. Oh, she's cute. I like that one. She's like kind of like a porcelain looking like kitty cat Moogle. I'll put that in A tier. That one's cute. We got this chunky Moogle. Again, giving like Chocobo crossover vibes. What is it, like flowers on his back or something? Or is that like a saddle? Like a big rideable Moogle? That's pretty cute. I would love to rest my head on that one as if it were a pillow. Honestly, B tier for that. That's a child. That's a child! Ooh, I love this fighting Moogle. He's pissed off, but I would give him a hug. B tier. How do I feel about the Kate Sith Moogle? I don't find it particularly cute. It's kind of oafish, but there is some charm there. I do like his dumb arms. I think his arms are really dumb, and I do like his big fucking rabbit feet. I like the design. I don't find it cute, though, but I would feel safe with this Moogle around. I'll put him at the bottom of C tier. Is this like Theater Rhythm or Cuck's Moogle? Probably Theater Rhythm, right? It's fine. It's not giving a ton. It does feel pretty evocative of the KH Moogle. Maybe it is from a KH source. I really don't know. I definitely prefer it 3D. I'll put it at like the top of... No, like the middle of C. It's not doing a ton for me. This guy looks like kind of a Moogle plush, like a stuffed animal type Moogle, but I don't know, it's not that cute. It's kind of giving like Olimer vibes. Probably got the most pronounced nose of all the Moogles, but I think it's doing a little too much. I do like his yellow pom-pom, its yellow rosy cheeks, but I think like the robotic looking eyes and just the nose is taking up too much real estate on the face. I find it difficult to connect emotionally with this Moogle. Yeah, right there. I like this little staff clock-wielding Moogle, but I don't know. The actual face and the design of him, it's giving like Brain from Pinky and the Brain. I don't find him particularly cute. I would want this Moogle on my side in a fight. It seems like he knows time magic, but in terms of giving him a little snuggle, not at the top of my list. I'll put him right here. And then this guy, he's got some pretty gnarly looking wings, I have to say. This guy looks like he could be a bit of a trickster. I like the lighting on him. He's a pretty middle-of-the-road Moogle. He's kind of cute, though. I'll put him in the middle of B. I feel good about this. I think those three at the top are objectively the cutest. I think there's really no getting around that, and everything else is sort of up to interpretation. I do feel strongly that, like, these are the big uggos, and that everything else can kind of shift around, TBH. But hopefully that suffices. I've talked about the Moogles for a long time now, including the dead footage that I can't use, so. Okay, there we go. I don't even know if this was the longest Rambles. It very well could be. I kind of recorded this in segments, like I would do 4 and then step away and then come back later and do the rest. But apologies for the long layover in the episodes. I won't say that I'll get better, because I probably won't, but I'll try. Thank you so much for all of your questions. Thank you, Buffoon, for this last Moogle one here, and or Courtney, not sure still. If you have a question, you want to ask it, you can check out the link beneath the Patreon post or in the comments on the YouTube video. I do have, let me see here, about 28-ish questions. A lot of them are tier lists. I've encouraged, ask questions that aren't necessarily tier lists or rankings. You can. I just won't get to them probably soonish because I have a lot of those. I like to save 1 or 2 of them for episodes, 2 for longer episodes like this if I've missed some episodes. But just keep that in mind. And yeah, be safe, be kind, be curious, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy. Bye.